Hi, Tom.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. It's so nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I'm glad we could make this happen.
I know, and I really appreciate it, and I know that it's so crazy with Met. And first of all, I just want to say congratulations because everyone that you dressed on Monday looked absolutely spectacular. And
Thank
I
you.
don't know how you managed to find the time to do all that you do because it's really mind blowing. And every single person that I saw, just they looked like they embodied both your spirit and their own spirit, and also in a way that was such a beautiful tribute to Carl.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, the night is so special, really, to celebrate, Andrew's show opening and to celebrate, because I do have the luxury of seeing the shows come together over throughout the year. And then to really put the time in to make sure it's really paying tribute to his work, his show. And then this one was easy because, Carl was, one of those designers that you could really play into so many codes that he played with, throughout his 65 years. So it was a really nice night. And I loved everybody that I had because we're each one of them individually was part of my family in a way because they've worn things of mine and I've known them, some longer than others, but it just felt like a really good relationship and a really nice group. Everybody got together really well.
I think that's also something that I find so fascinating and wonderful about you and your brand is there are people that I know are consistently Thom Browne people. And some of those people I initially found a little bit surprising. And then I think the more that I got to know you and the more that I got to know your brand and the more that I got to know them, like Tiana Taylor, I was like, oh, wow, this pairing is actually so, so wonderful. And I'm curious, like, how some of those people come to be in your family.
I mean, it happens like it happens very easily. I mean, it's almost like a mutual love affair because specifically with Tiana, just I've loved her music, and then now I'm so in love with her acting because of I don't know if you've seen the film that she's just in right now. We were joking about it. If she doesn't win an Academy Award or at least be mentioned in the running for, it's just so exciting for her. And, it's so real. And that's what's so great about her is she's just so real. And, with everybody that I approach and speak to and get to work with, there's always like a real relationship. It's not forced and it's not really for any reason other than I just want to be able to be with them. And that's what it really comes down to. And I don't know, that's why, I really wanted to do this talk with you because, the event that I was at with you, at when you were up there, one, you should speak to every young kid in the country, in the world, because your story is so inspiring. And it's like what we talk about at the CFTA with our frustration sometimes with newer designers and them not realizing on how hard it actually is and all the work that is they are going to be looking forward to, and actually they should be looking forward to it. But your story
Yeah.
in regards to here I am and you see me now, but do you realize the work in the years that are prior to what you're seeing now? And so I think I told you that night that you are one, I don't know how you do everything you do. And it's just so important for people to hear your story and see what you do and everything.
Thank you so much, Tom. That actually means so much to me. It's so funny because a couple weeks ago, Billie Jean King said something that's like stuck with me ever since then. And it's a quote that I guess she says all the time that you probably heard before. But she said that pressure is a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And that really resonated with me because I feel like, and I see some of this in you as well, like that all of these things are opportunities, right? And that's kind of why we worked so hard to be able to be in these positions where we're getting the chance to do these things. And
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating because sometimes with some of the younger generations and younger designers, like it feels like pressure sometimes is an inconvenience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really hope that that narrative can shift a little bit, right? Because in the same way that I kind of view pressure as being an opportunity, I see challenge as well, and things that are not beautiful actually as an opportunity to become beautiful, or challenge things as an opportunity to bring growth into those spaces, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's kind of what we're brought here to do as people,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
I mean, life is not always supposed to be so easy. And that's what makes the success or the good times that much more fulfilling, and that much more what you're looking forward to, because it's the hard work, and it's not going to be given to you, and it most likely will be hard. And there's no guarantees either. you
Yeah.
know just because you work hard and you are good at what you do, sometimes life doesn't
Yeah.
play these cards that way. And I think it's so important that you just love the work that much, that success is exactly that, the work that you love doing. And of course then it gets into, success is so relative. I think success is, there's so many different levels and things about success. It's certainly is not about fame and money. It's really in being able to do something so important and so beautiful that you love doing, and that's what success should be for.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's actually a topic that I've been thinking about a lot lately, because I think the themes kind of are emerged in some of what I wrote about in my book. Because in some of the earlier years with Brother Bellies, when I was especially struggling, like right around 2015, and when I was, getting through the fashion fund and all of that jazz, where I think I like looked very successful, like as most people would deem success on the outside. But I think financially the business was really struggling. And they said, and so people now will be interviewing me and they'll say, oh, we thought, like, it was so strange because we always assumed that you were so successful, and it was so fascinating to learn that you were struggling. And I think it's really funny because actually I feel like I was incredibly successful, and always during that time I felt tremendously successful. But that's because my barometers of success at that time was about supporting artisans in Africa,
Mhm.
working with new artisans around the world, bringing their artisanship to life in a lot of different ways, and really celebrating some of the traditional cultural apparel that they had been shepherding through many generations. And so when I would see like Moroccan babouche that we worked on, like here in the streets of New York, to me, that was how I, measured my own success. It had nothing to do with what the sort of monetary goals were that other people put on the business at that time, right? And I think that that part is where we've also started to get lost in society, because so much of the messaging is around, breaking glass ceilings or having an IPO with your business or doing all these crazy things. And don't be wrong, it's definitely important for businesses to grow and to be sustainable and feasible and practical to some degree. But I think not at the expense of, your own success metrics.
Yeah, it has to come from, it has to be internal. That gauge on success has to be internal. And that is what is, I think, most people's struggle, is that they gauge the success on everybody else's perception of your success, as opposed to exactly what you're saying. Your success is, well, you've always done something that's so authentically yours. And that was what was so appealing and so inspiring about what you do, is that it always felt so real. And that's also too, that's the reason why you have succeeded too, is because sometimes people are trying to do things that they think that they're supposed to be making for people, or they're supposed to be designing for people, as opposed to doing something that is so authentically their own that no one can ever do that. No one can replicate that. And it's almost like, of course you are doing that because it is so you. And I think that is, and then also to your success, you never compromise, your level of creativity in regards to the levels of success that you wanted to achieve. And I think, that's when, me, my mantra is it all starts from creativity. And I think true success and true, doing something that really is important really starts from a pure creative point. And I think that is, what most people see in what you do as being inspiring, because even, with your collection, but then with your charity and all your initiatives, this book, I mean, everything comes from such a real place that it is all they all complement each other and they all are so real. And, I think that's why we're sitting here talking.
Okay, I have a question for you. So on that topic, my reality, right, which is that my father was born and raised in Ghana and he passed away when I was really young, and my mom was adopted at birth and she didn't know any of her cultural ancestry, but she's kind of clearly a white woman. She maybe looks a little bit ethnically ambiguous, but for the most part, a lot of my and her early fascination with fashion was kind of almost from an anthropological standpoint. Like, she was trying to understand women and history and culture in different regions of the world and using fashion as a vehicle to do so. And when I kind of started traveling to Africa, really in a lot of ways, I think I was searching for my father and trying to understand, African migratory patterns and just how they lived their life there. And so really in a lot of ways, Brother Vellies is an extension of trying to climb my own family tree. And I think one of the things that's always struck me about your work is the sense of, uniform that comes through. And I'm curious, in a very nosy way, how your family may have impacted or informed or shaped any of your design or aesthetic.
I think my parents they're probably up there laughing whenever I say that they inspired anything about, my work. But indirectly they did, because they were very classic. They were both attorneys, and my father, if he didn't have a suit to put on, wouldn't know what to put on. And my mother was, a professional woman who had 7 kids, and, she didn't have the time to really think about clothing.
Right.
So they were both very classic and always very simple and very, dressed. Indirectly, that has influenced me in regards to the idea of uniformity and almost one thing to put on every day. And that always representing something for me. My parents, the one thing, they always seemed very confident and been very secure in themselves. And I think there's something about uniformity that there is a true confidence in that, in seeing somebody that is almost the same every day because they love exactly the way that is. And there's something very simple about it too. I love the idea of the simplicity of it. And also too, in a weird way, it drives people crazy. I think, especially in fashion, when everything is supposed to change and the latest and the greatest and this trend, that trend, I didn't come from a fashion background. I wasn't schooled in fashion. And so I don't care that much about that world of fashion, but I love creating, more this kind of odd story that is very grounded in that uniform idea. And that's where every collection starts and, goes off in different ways and different stories. But, so in a weird way, it is very much indirectly influenced by my parents, and also to a little bit of schooling too. I went to Catholic school, and so there's a little bit of that. So yeah, I mean, it really comes from, but I think I think most of us, there is our family in our work. There has to be. I mean, I think if
Whether we like it or not.
yeah, I mean it's I think it would be odd if there wasn't a little bit of our mother and father in what we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I do have to say they would be like they would be mind blown if they heard me say it.
Well, when you describe them to me, I think it makes all the sense in the world,
Mm.
right? Like, I think that's really beautiful. And I also wonder too, since you have kind of put creativity at the forefront of everything that you do, we all see that, feel that, and then also hear that from you directly.
Are you bored by hearing it?
No, no, because I'll tell you why. You're also a really phenomenal businessman. And I wonder, and I mean, listen, I'm not there every day in the inside, but I know that the brand has grown exponentially, and obviously we see it everywhere all the time. And that, I guess, is rooted in it being wonderful design and inspiring people and people wanting to be pulled into your world. But I'm wondering, like, when and how did you ever come to a moment where you said, okay, this actually is going to be a viable, amazing business? And if you are able to balance both sides of the brain, or if you had to bring in other people, what did that look like? And how should young designers also be thinking about that themselves? Or should they not be thinking about it at all?
They shouldn't be thinking about it yet. I think, it has to start from such a pure creative point of view that really matters, means something, that is so focused and such a strong idea that maybe not be so commercially viable yet, but is so important and so real to yourself that it's the only thing you want people to see for for a time, so that you establish something that is so focused and so ingrained in people's minds that makes it seem like, okay, now I understand why this exists. Because the last thing we need is another designer or another, or more clothes, or, something out there in the world. I think we need important ideas. We need really true creative designers, creative people in the world to keep the world, keep us all moving forward and thinking differently and making the world just a better place. But it took, honestly, it took me till 2015 to really become a really viable business. But I was very conscious on keeping it so focused and so pure to that, like that beginning
Yeah.
creativity, that like I felt like I could do so much more if it was so clear in people's minds on what it was, that it took almost 15 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's what, when I say to, I feel like I'm always preaching, but like when with the younger generation coming in right now, they have to be committed to a long term. It's a journey. It's something you really are committing to, that is going to take a while for it to really become viable. And then of course I did have some really good business people later, like from like 2010 through 2015, that really started to get the business together. And then 2015, right now we're in a really good place, because I have really good, I mean, I have amazing employees. And of course, I'm sitting here talking about, but we have a lot of really good, talented people that really keep it all going. But it has to be a long-term commitment. It's not going to happen overnight. Very, very, if it does, very, very, very rarely does it ever happen.
Right. And also scary, right? Because you see so many kind of like of the actual overnight successes, and it's hard to maintain that kind of thing, because if you have something that really pops, right? Like I can think of a few products, even from American brands, like over the past decade, where they've had maybe one item that just like absolutely crushed it. And then you kind of heard of that brand for a couple years, and then they sort of disappear afterwards, because it's really hard to sort of maintain that. And and get in the right team and all the other things that you need at such a rapid pace when something blows up, and really taking time to, because team is so critical and also so hard to find people who are the right fit that understand your vision, and understand the work and all of that jazz. And it sounds like you found a lot of those people, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I have all those people, and I'm really fortunate. And I have everyone that like they really understand what we're doing, because we do something that's a lot of people don't like it, but a lot of people do like it. And I think we do challenge ourselves to make sure that I always feel like if you're doing something important enough, you have to expect that there's going to be people that don't really like it. And at the beginning, nobody liked it. nobody
Right.
nobody liked it. Nobody could afford it. Nobody cared about it. So, but I loved it that much. So I surrounded myself with people that like, okay, I get it and I love it, and let's just do this, because I know somebody else will eventually like it. And it stuck. And but sometimes, and I'm sure you'll agree, immediate success sometimes is the kiss of death. I think slow and steady is, I think the key to a more sustainable future, because unfortunately, we see it over the years. The percentage of success and failure is, sometimes skewed in not always the more favorable way.
Yeah, it's challenging, for sure. To it's a marathon, right? Especially with fashion, because it takes a long time, right? And you're making new things all the time, and you're in some ways reinventing the wheel, even on the supply chain side or what have you, right? And you do have to be committed beyond belief to
Yeah.
see it through.
Yeah. It's like when I lived in LA, LA is all entertainment. So you would always hear, the actor story, the producer story. And the actor's story, sorry, the actor's story is you better really want to be an actor. And there better be nothing else you want to do if you want to be an actor. It's the hardest life in the world. And it's the same thing with design too. I think you have to really want to be a designer and really just want to, in our case, make beautiful clothes or beautiful product, because that's, it's a lifetime commitment, and you
Yeah.
have to really want to do it. But we are, the fortunate ones that actually have, I think gotten over the hump and are seeing the fruits of our work. And it's an amazing world to be in. We get to meet the most amazing we get to meet amazing people, and really, sometimes I think underestimated in how creative they are. And I think like even with Andrew's show opening, Andrew, I think sometimes I say is the most important person in fashion, because he's elevated fashion to the level of being worthy of being in the Met. And, we make really important things, and we put important ideas in front of people, and we touch everybody,
Yeah.
everybody out on the street, everybody in life is directly touched by us. And I think we have to really feel that. And I think, it's we have to take that on too as a responsibility too.
I completely agree. I also agree with you that Andrew has an incredibly, if not the most important job in fashion. And my mom used to tell me this Nigerian proverb that I write about in the book, and I want to tell it to you. So the proverb goes, until the lion has a historian, the hunter will always be the hero.
Mm.
And my mom used to take me to look at fashion throughout the years, and she would say, this is where there are a lot of hidden stories, and you can find histories here that are not archived anywhere else. And it's people who never felt included in their community. It's women whose histories were not ever actually jotted down. And I look for those stories always. I think that they've come out in such incredible, beautiful ways at the Met. And I always kind of try to read between the lines as well, in some of the garments that are presented there. And I think he's done such a beautiful job over the years. And um, to that point, I'd also love to ask you, when you're designing, do you feel that you are telling stories about present day? Do you feel like you're making any kind of commentary on what's going on in the world or how you're feeling? Or is it just coming from a purely whimsical place in your mind that's manifesting onto the page and then into product? Or what is that like for you? Like, can you feel, if you look at parts of your collection, do you feel parts of the world in those moments, or is it purely about your own imagination and world?
Yeah, it's so layered. You know, I think mostly at the beginning, it's more instinctual and it's just maybe a beautiful story, a crazy story, sometimes maybe an ugly story that I want to tell. And then like subconsciously it be there is a more important story that that starts that starts being created by it. Or I take an existing story and I want to tell it in a way that I think today we live in an amazing time when, you know, people are so much more accepting of, you know, seeing things differently, telling different stories. And, you know, the last show in Paris, I told Cinderella in my way, where Prince Charming was a woman and, you know, and Cinderella was a trans woman. And, you know, so it was, and that for me is today's version of Cinderella. That's the world we live in. And, you know, I think so many times in my collections, it's almost like a why not type of collection. It's
Yeah.
like, if you want to, like, why can't you do this, or why can't you? You know, I had like 7 or 8 years ago, I had a men's collection that was primarily, you know, mostly it would be categorized as women's clothes, but I put it all on in my men's collection, and it was my why not collection because I thought, like, well, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
so I think I don't always over intellectualize my collections, but you know, I do want to make sure that I'm not wasting people's time. So I do like to weave in a story that I think is telling something that is relevant in regards to what's happening today.
Mm.
But I want to make it beautiful, and I want to, you know, be provocative, and I want to start a conversation, and I want to sometimes show people things that they're either going to love or hate. I don't want to be doing something and just make something pretty. I
Yeah.
don't, I don't want to do that.
Is it vulnerable for you? Like, I often look at your collections and think to myself, like, wow, this feels really vulnerable. And it was so fascinating because when you sent an email out to everyone right before New York Fashion Week, and it was such a beautiful email, and I, wish that everyone watching could have the opportunity to read it because it really came so much from the heart. And you were kind of saying to all the designers, like, let's really go out there and try our best and manifest beautiful things and create with passion. And um, I think you might have even mentioned that you were like a little bit nervous and a little bit scared. And I think that it was helpful for us all to hear that.
Yeah, I think I say it before every collection. I say to my team, I say, are we scared? Because I feel like if we're a little scared, then we're doing something right. Because I think you have to be at that level of, okay, I'm a little nervous about this, but I love it so much that I'm gonna go for it and just take that chance. And yeah, I think it's important that we do challenge ourselves to that level of scaring ourselves. But and also too, I think, you know, at whatever level of, if you're just starting or if you're, you know, Ralph Lauren, I think you should be always, you know, challenging yourself and scaring yourself in a way that is, I think, proving to yourself that you're really pushing yourself.
Mm, I completely agree. I think that's where the magic happens, right? I think it comes through when we take a risk. There's another quote that I live by that's Margaret Shepherd, which is sometimes your best mode of transportation is a leap of faith.
Mhm.
And I think that so often with creativity, it's like you just have to make that jump.
You have to follow your, you have to follow your instincts, because if you follow your instincts, it is purely your own.
Yeah.
You're not following anybody else's opinion. You are totally on your own. And yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same with every collection. It's like, I'm just, I'm out there, I'm on that ledge and I'm jumping.
Yeah.
And the next day it's like, uh, there's always a little bit of, okay, I guess it was good. Was it good?
Yeah. I don't know. You're sort of like, and people say all the things to you, and you're like, okay, cool, but you don't really know, right? You never really know. It's like it's difficult. But I think that's part of the beauty of it too with art, right? It's so subjective. So it's sort of like as long as you feel like something happened
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you tried your best, that's kind of what it's about, right?
It's so true. It's so true.
Um, what do you think we could do at the CFDA to kind of inspire more people, maybe existing members or future members? I know that we just joined, invited a whole bunch of really awesome people. How many was it? Like 7 designers maybe that joined the CFDA this year? I don't remember off the top of
I
my
think
head.
we wanted 10, but 2 didn't respond. So we ended up with 8, I think.
Um, what do you think? How can we kind of inspire each other all the time to uh, take those leaps?
I think we just have to lead by example. I think we all have to, each collection, each, idea, story we're telling has to be at a level that is inspiring. I think,
Mhm.
sometimes there's so many, there's so many people that in the CFDA, not in the CFDA, that's, ask what the CFDA is. And I think fundamentally it should just be a group of like-minded creatives that are supporting each other and inspiring each other, and of course, have those initiatives that, are in place, but fundamentally just like like-minded creatives that inspire each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I have to tell you something funny. Last night I was talking to Naomi Campbell and she told me how many Mets she had gone to. Do you want to make a guess how many she's gone to?
26, I don't
That was a good guess. 29.
know.
How many have you gone to?
um, I don't know. I probably like 10, 11. I don't know.
A lot, right? Rodarte was saying 12 they've gone to. And it's so fascinating because I then started going down this rabbit hole and I was thinking of like how many people have been in sort of the fashion consciousness for a long time, especially in America, right? And the more creative those people are, in theory, then the more creative the rest of the industry could potentially be, because those are the people that are there all of the time and kind of generating ideas and thoughts and putting messages out there and all of those things. And I was wondering how many times Carl attended, and I think it's really so fascinating and so special and such a great I don't know, opportunity for people to. I think since I launched the pledge, I've had so many business conversations with
Mhm.
all kinds of people. I mean, right before this, I just came from a meeting at Goldman Sachs, and people are so confused about fashion sometimes, which is so crazy to me because we're a multi-billion-dollar industry. We're one of the biggest employers of people all across the world. We're definitely the largest employer of women. Like, I mean, it's like we're so powerful. People are, I think, terrified.
Yeah.
And so it's easier for them to be like, oh, like fashion, it's cute, than to actually acknowledge
I know.
how insanely powerful the industry is.
Yeah, it is. It is unfortunate on how people trivialize fashion, and they don't give it the credit that it really deserves. And here I bring Andrew up again because he has made it so much more important to people. And then on the business side, I mean, I mean, just it's black and white on how important fashion is in regards to a business. And, but speaking to like the amount of, or just the world of, I think the Met and people that have gone, whether it's their first time or it's their 26th time, it's like, it is so important that the older generation is influencing the younger generation. And then the younger generation has to start feeling their responsibility in regards to succeeding, because they're the ones that are going to keep us like kind of young, and keep us like kind of, because, sometimes as you're getting older, sometimes it's, you've gone to see all the, it's almost like we're relying on them to kind of keep us informed on what the youth is doing, and as opposed to us always having to engage in. And I think they have a huge responsibility in regards to keeping it like kind of, well, they have to become the next generation. And that's what is so important about the CFDA too. We have to start seeing the next generation really rising to the occasion and succeeding. Not just succeeding for 2 or 3 years, like truly succeeding for a career. And that was what was so inspiring about Carl's life, and what made him the iconic designer that he is 65 years of really hard work and always staying relevant, because he was always engaged with, and very supportive of younger designers.
Yeah, I think to your point as well, I think what I would really love to see, especially over the next couple of years, and hopefully we can kind of start identifying some of them with the CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund, but young designers who are building really strong businesses that are wildly creative. Because I think when I think about some of the younger designers who are building strong businesses right now in fashion, they're definitely much more on the commercial side, which is fine, right? And I'm happy that they're super successful, but there, I think, is a little bit of white space there for really stand out, boundary pushing, creative, that is still, growing and occupying space and in people's consciousness. And there are some, of course, but I would love to see even more.
Yeah, I need to see the creative designer businesses too, because I agree, and it's a challenge that I think sometimes American fashion has in regards to what it represents around the world, is that sometimes it's always skewed more towards commercial creativity as opposed to pure creativity. And then it comes into the, it's really what I was saying about commitment. If you're really doing something that is important creatively, it's going to take longer. It's not going to be an overnight, and it's you're going to maybe have to have another job along with your collection to sustain yourself. But it has to be important enough that, and you commit to it in such a important way that is what it is. And I'm doing this, it's an end, it's a means to an end. And with my story, I had 2 jobs for the first 12 years along with my collection. So it's kind of what you do. You just do it.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people, especially young people, I talk to them all the time, that's like not even in their, they're like, what do you mean? Like, really? I just want to do this. And I'm like, no, I totally understand that you just want to do this, right? But it's like a long road and it's going to be really hard. And if you are going to just do this, that might mean that you're going to have to make decisions for your business that don't feel right in order to financially support it. And you probably don't want to do that to your brand. So maybe holding another job is actually going to be the way that you'll be able to maintain that sense of creativity.
I think it's the only way. And I do really feel like it's kind of like, your story too, which I think is so important, that every young designer hears, that one moment that you got the investment from that person that was not very nice. And but you did it because you kind of have to live through those things. You have to do those things. But I mean, I have to say, like, you are so, like, the strength that you have though is also what people have to see too. It's like you have to be tough, and you have to, like, kind of do it and make it happen. No one's going to make it happen for you. And I think that's,
No.
when I heard you speaking, it's like, oh my gosh, I everybody needs to hear this, because it's so true. You made it happen. And it wasn't going to be given to me. It wasn't, it was like, you had this, and you wanted it so badly that, I'm doing this.
There was nothing, I mean, especially in those early days, there was nothing that could have stopped me. Like, I remember, I think even when I was in the fashion fund, I started getting evicted from my apartment. And I was like, well, guess what? That's buying me more time. And I remember like learning about all the laws and the rules. And then I actually like went to court, and I was like, I don't have any, I mean, I like, and then I like was able to scrounge, and I sold more shoes and I paid it off. And you know what I mean? But I was like, anything to keep what was my creative baby, alive and in the world, and just give it the opportunity, like give it the opportunity to go out there and just into school and see if it could make something of itself, right? And sure, it didn't maybe have like, the best pedigree or whatever, but it was like my little offering to the world, and I wanted to give it its best shot, and I was gonna do it like come hell or high water. And I was going to eat top ramen only if I had to. Like, it didn't matter. That was like any kind of personal sacrifice was the least I could do.
Yeah. But then it almost didn't feel like a personal sacrifice, because it was, because in 2009, when I was days away from going out of business, I remember being on the phone with my brother, and he said, well, what are you going to do? It's like, there's nothing else I can do.
Right.
I can't imagine doing anything else. And then the people that own the companies that I was actually doing the other collections for, I went to them for advice, thinking like, hey, maybe they'll like kind of, help me out or invest, like not. And they said, well, why don't you just declare bankruptcy and start over? And I was like, you don't understand. I can't do this again. Emotionally, I could not live through those 7 years again. I don't have the energy to relive that experience, which was amazing and I loved it. But I couldn't do it again. So
What did you do?
I was on a plane to Japan, and a good customer of mine was generous enough to just float me some money to keep me in business.
Oh my God, I love that.
I've been really fortunate over the years with financial partners, and now I'm so lucky with the Zania family. But I did look out.
It's fortune. It's not just fortune, right? It's like preparation, opportunity, timing. It's all of these things. And it's passion, because your customer would have never done that if you had have been delivering lackluster product to your customer, right? Or unoriginal product to your customer, they would never have seen the value and be willing to do that, right? So it's all of these other things that sort of coalesce together to make an environment where people were willing to say, oh my gosh, yes, I feel this passion and I want to see this grow and succeed. And I believe in this person. I believe in this product. I believe in this brand.
Yeah. And that's why I think like our stories, we're all living parallel lives. Like the fortunate ones of us that are sitting like in our positions, I think we're all living parallel lives. I mean, you talk to Michael and he has this, similar stories. You talk to, most of us, and we've had those years of like real challenge, but it makes the success that much, I think so much nicer.
I 100% agree. And I always talk about like human capacity, right? And it's like the level to which you can know like despair or struggle directly mirrors the level to which you can know joy, fulfillment, and happiness, right?
It makes it you appreciate it that much more.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thom, thank you so much for taking this time talking to me.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always, and I want more, and we have to have a sidebar on our, our CFDA world.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And it's so nice just to share these moments and get to know you more. And I'm so excited and honored to be doing this work with you on the CFDA. And I think this is going to be such an incredible chapter. And I think that you are such a wonderful beacon of light to have atop the organization. And I think what you illuminate for people in terms of creativity and in terms of motivation and drive and the way that we need to approach creation is so important. So thank you for giving yourself in that way, because it's so easy to not extend yourselves, because I know how busy we all are, right? So taking that extra step and committing that time to the organization, and allowing other people to have that access into your world is a really beautiful thing. So thank you, kind of on behalf of all of us.
Thank you. Well, speaking to someone that, is the true inspiration, and, I look forward to hearing the success of your book, and, and, of course, I wanted to work with you because, I felt, in the CFDA, you're, such an important voice.
Thank you so much, Thom. I will see you so soon, I hope.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye.